$175,000. $180,000.
Baseball cards for years has been thought of as a hobby for children. It's not anymore.
There are millions of collectors and hundreds of thousands of dealers out there.
It's amazing how people remember and how much better a baseball player you have become through the years than you actually were in the minds of all these people.
Everybody wants uniforms. Uniforms are selling for $10, $20, $30, $40, $50, $100, $150,000 for the right ones.
A complete run of mint tops and Bowmans were $21,000 in the book value, and now they're $340,000.
Manufacturer sales of baseball cards are probably somewhere around $500 million.
The memorabilia business, in terms of total sales, is probably somewhere between $1 and $1.5 billion.
It's clearly in excess of a couple of $1 billion.
It's probably a $10 billion business.
It's the most amazing business I've ever seen.
When I was small, we used to go to the little store and get bubble gum cards, and we'd play different games with them. But I never knew that it would become something like this, or else I would have definitely kept it up.
The cards came out in series. I'd shovel snow, you know, and run back. As soon as I got $1.20, I'd throw the shovel down and run and buy another box of baseball cards. They were 24 packs, you know, times a nickel.
When we started 20 years ago, you didn't think of selling your collection. It wasn't part of the picture. It was you bought it and you collected it, and it was yours. It was just like, you know, when you buy your house.
The first convention that I went to in 1969, when I came to that convention, it was held in a man's basement in upstate New York.
I've seen the hobby grow from a thing that was primarily intended for children and grown-ups who collected cards were almost ashamed to admit it, you know, closet-type collectors, and now it's a legitimate investment recognized on Wall Street in the Wall Street Journal and Barron's and Sotheby's auctions selling cards for $450,000 and so forth.
There were probably less than 500 baseball card stores in existence in 1980, and now there's over 10,000 in the United States. There were less than 50 shows a month, baseball card shows, in 1980, and now there's over 1,000 a month throughout the United States. And you can get anywhere from 1,000 people to 25 or 30,000 people attending any one of these shows.
It was a children's pastime, and it's become an adult business. And that brings certain consequences.
Nobody does baseball like Upper Deck.
Here's this week's top 10 hottest baseball cards. Remember, prices reported are retail sell prices.
This is J&J Baseball Card and Fantasy Sports Hour. My name is Joe Finner in the Loose Cannon, and I'm here with my co-host, Joe Babe Amato, and also Tucker Smith from Tough Stuff Magazine.
Mr. Hammer and Hank Aaron, do you have any idea what your 1954 rookie card is worth?
No, I don't have any idea. What would it be worth?
I understand from sources that we have that it's going for $1,000. Should have kept a couple, huh?
Never thought I was that bad.
Baseball Card Society, Inc. is a publicly owned company that sells baseball cards to the general public on a continuity basis, which is more like a Book of the Month Club type basis.
I'm the publisher of the sports division at Krause Publications, which encompasses our flagship publication, Sports Collectors Digest, Baseball Card Magazine, Price Guide Monthly. Baseball Cards presents the Investor's Guide to Baseball Cards, Baseball Card Boom, Rookie and Superstar Special. Combining all our publications, we have over 1 million circulation.
Major League Baseball Properties is the official licensing, marketing, and publishing arm of the Major League clubs. Our estimated retail sales were above $1.5 billion.
Scoreboard is a diversified company in the sports memorabilia and trading card business. And the stock is nationally traded on the national list of NASDAQ, and we have a very unique symbol, baseball, BSBL. The year that just ended, we did a little over $33 million, which was up from $20 million the year before. I think the profit margins in this business are overwhelmingly good. The card companies like Topps and Fleer probably have gross profits of 50–55%, which is very, very good from any financial standpoint.
Last year we grew our business from, I guess it was about 80 million the year before up to 144 million. So we had an excellent year. We were up 30% in the first quarter of this year.
Topps started the industry in 1952, and since then, you know, they've been the only one. That was up till 1981 when Fleer and Donruss came along. And in 1988, Score entered the market. After Score came Upper Deck. Now we have 5 major companies.
It's a huge business, and I don't know quite how to explain it, the phenomenon. We did a story a few years ago about Mr. Mint, a man named Alan Rosen, who has a great flair for collecting and for buying things. But I wonder, you know, how much does he love baseball and how much does he love money?
I collect money. I collect $100 bills. I'm a dealer in baseball cards. I'm what a lot of old-timers call a mercenary dealer who buys and sells baseball memorabilia and makes a profit. Last year, my sales were $6,240,000.
Leland's is the largest auction house of rare and historical sports memorabilia in the United States. I brought sports memorabilia to the baseball card field and showed them, look, you know, you're paying $1,000 for a Mickey Mantle baseball card, and you can buy his uniform at that time for a couple $1,000s. And there's thousands of those, tens of thousands of those cards, and there's like 5 uniforms or 10 uniforms. And people began to see my way.
To me, as Lou Gehrig said in the field when he retired,
I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
To be able to talk baseball and cards all day long is to me an honor and a privilege.
As Lou Gehrig said, I'm the luckiest man on the face of the earth. I really am, because I can do what I really love and make money at the same time.
I went to a card show a year or so ago, and a fella had a uniform top of mine in 1956. And I said, "What are you selling that top for?" He said, $20,000. It's up for sale for $20,000.
I gave away my uniform from the old Negro League. And if I had the uniform that I wore that cost $25 today, it's worth $10,000.
I've been offered as much as $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 for my Golden Gloves, and I won't sell them. My MVP award, I've offered $20,000 for that. I'm not going to give it up. I mean, people are crazy. To me, that's insane.
If you talked about sex and aggression, regardless, you probably would be right about a classical Freudian view of some of this behavior.
I've never seen anything in the ethnographic literature, nor in my own field experience can I think of anyone who really collects in the way that people in this society are collecting.
We talk about kids for a minute, because that's kind of when the collecting bug hits first. And children at a certain age, usually around 7, 8, 9, have a kind of innate tendency towards what I guess you could call an obsessive-compulsive view of life.
Well, when I was in first grade, I always had a bunch of cards. I really got serious about 4 or 5 years ago.
About maybe when I was about 7 or something.
I have thousands and a lot of cards. Last time I counted was 2 years ago. I had 11,000, but I go to shows a lot more now.
I don't really collect them a lot, you know, try to get in favorite people.
And I think for some people who find that fun, it continues on as they get older.
I've always loved baseball. I was always a baseball card fanatic. Even on my license plate, it says baseball card fanatic.
I mean, myself, I get every set that comes out. You know, I want to have every card. You know, I want to build up my collection as big as it can be.
I love cards, but there's nothing like having a bat on the wall that's signed by Joe DiMaggio or Mickey Mantle. All of a sudden, I can remember Mickey at the plate batting lefty, 2 outs, a couple of guys in front of him on base. They're losing 4-2, 3-run homers the game, and then Mickey bangs one out of here. I go nuts. I mean, we went nuts.
We have Nellie Fox's cupboard and a Babe Ruth's bathtub.
I also have Ty Cobb full canceled check.
I have a room at home dedicated to sports, and it's my room, and I have things on there that are my personal possession I'd never sell. Never.
I bought it from him for $500, said I'll take it right on the spot. And he went, ah! Because he didn't want to sell it. He was a collector, also a dealer. And he immediately offered me $600 to buy it back. And here is the original dirt from Ebbets Field.
I've never seen an event this spectacular, this magnificent in my life.
$20,000 is bid for the Cracker Jack lock. At $20,000 now, 35,000, okay. $35,000 is bid in front of me here, how much? 60,000. This is interesting bidding.
25,000, 26,000, 27,000, 28,000, 29,000. He's there, 30.
It's not expensive, it's just a lot of money.
419, 13,000. 27,000 on the phone.
45,000. 90,000 on the phone.
It's unquestionably the best baseball card collection in the world. There are other sports memorabilia collections that specialize in uniforms and gloves and autographs, but as far as paper goods, ephemera, this is the most important, most valuable collection. And considering how many people are interested and have supported the market, we just felt, you know, we couldn't pass it up. It was just too important.
The catalog is the best-selling catalog in the history of Sotheby's. That's it's had more sales than the Andy Warhol collection, which I believe that catalog was on the cover of Time magazine, and more than the Duchess of Windsor jewelry catalog. 2 of the biggest catalogs in Sotheby's history. The general consensus is that the catalog will be a collector's item, and there have been several people that have bought more than one catalog.
The most coveted piece of sports memorabilia you can have.
In 1989, I sold one for $115,000, which was the record.
I had one that was barely in one piece. This one is the best one I've ever seen.
The amount of interest and excitement, and you know, it's almost to mythical proportions as far as that card.
Lot number 196, the Holy Grail. What? $228,000 is bid in front. At $228,000, I don't know why.
I wish I had saved my baseball cards when I was a kid because I had around 6,000 cards.
I have 295 at the desk. 300 is next. 300,000 is bid. At $300,000 now, at 300. At $300,000 now, at 300. At $300,000. Gentlemen's bid here in the fifth. 310.
I still have them. Oh yeah, I'll definitely keep them now.
380. At $380,000 now. At 380. 385,000. 390. At $390,000 now. 395 on the phone. 400,000. At $400,000 now. At 400, we're not. It ain't over till it's over. At 400,000. 410. At $410,000 now. At 410. at $410,000. The bid's here at the desk, against you in the room at $410,000. 410 at the desk.
I'm basically a framer. Ran a frame shop for years and was selling fine art. And one day I put out a baseball poster, and it was bought within 15 minutes. So the next day I put out two, and from there we just took all the fine art and pretty much got rid of it. And now we call it the fine art of baseball now. We do.
The 53 top set is all done in oil paintings. It's beautiful. A lot of collectors love that. And people are considering that a piece of art now. I know they're featuring some cards in the Metropolitan Museum of Art.
We have all kinds of prints, and we have some really terrible ones, which are interesting because in order to know what the best ones are, you have to know what some of the worst ones are. So that if you have beautiful etchings by Rembrandt or great woodcuts by Dürer, to compare them, well, it's impossible to compare them to Honus Wagner.
The Spalding collection consists primarily of books and things such as annual baseball guides, scrapbooks compiled by Albert Spalding and Henry Chadwick. There's also some photographic material, which mostly, I believe, comes probably from Harry Wright's collection. In one sense, a research library is kind of a repository of our culture, and baseball is certainly a strong part of American culture. But there's still some thought on the part of some librarians that this really isn't a serious subject and doesn't really belong in New York Public Library.
A lot of what we do is more highbrow, and I think the arts in general sometimes are criticized as being elitist, and we try in our selections to do things that have scholarly importance and integrity, but that are also accessible to the public. And it seemed to us that a baseball exhibition was the ultimately accessible exhibition. And not only did it have integrity as an art exhibition, but it seemed to reach some kind of higher plane in terms of how it appealed to people at an emotional level.
I have always been a memorabilia freak in essence. Like now, the shot that I have set up behind me is something I've sort of been thinking about, because everyone always talks about how their mother, threw out their baseball cards. They were sitting in the attic and they threw them out. And I started thinking, attic and toys in the attic type of thing. And I realized how much junk I have around. I call it junk. I mean, everyone says, how much this is worth? I collect it for the uniqueness of the items, not what they're worth, because I'm never going to sell this stuff. I mean, I can't pay my mortgage. I got $100,000 worth of stuff to sell, and I won't sell it, because the day I sell it, I'm going to need it for another photograph. No one has done what I have done with baseball memorabilia. That's why people want it. 100 years from now, my photographs will still be around. No one will remember who the hell Spindell was. Does anyone know who Da Vinci was? I mean, he's a famous artist, and that's all they know about him. It's the work that's important. I'm just the tool and the means of creating it. That's all it is.
It's really a pilgrimage here to Cooperstown.
Almighty God, ever-loving Father, we pray your blessing on those who are now to be inducted, and upon all who have been honored here in Cooperstown in the past, both living and deceased.
Well, it's the keystone of our year. Our whole year, hinges on induction weekend.
As a youngster growing up in Panama, I used to listen to the Armed Forces radio, and I fantasized about what would it be like playing in the major leagues one day. I never even dared dreaming that a day like this would arrive. But that's one of the great things about this country. You can achieve whatever you set out to do.
When you attain the Hall of Fame, it puts you on a special plateau, I think, that it's just a group, there's like 200 guys or a little more in the Hall of Fame, so it makes you something special in the eyes of the fans.
I think Ted Williams and when Joe DiMaggio come up, I think they seem to be the reigning Hall of Famers right now. They seem to be the fellows that are almost a link with the original players, the Ruths and is sort of like a bridge to that era.
Ladies and gentlemen, the best way to describe it, the last man to hit 400 in Major League Baseball, the greatest pure hitter of all time, Ted Williams. This man was from New York. This man hit in 56 consecutive games. Welcome back, Joe DiMaggio. Two of the best that ever put on a uniform, Joe DiMaggio, Ted Williams.
There's a tremendous memorabilia market now, obviously, and it's something that we've always been concerned about, but we've tried not to panic. We don't buy things. We don't have the financial resources to compete in the open market, so we really rely on the good graces of the ball players and the teams and relatives of older players who may come across artifacts.
Now, some have commercialized some of the things that they've worn when they've won X amount of games or hit X amount of home runs or got X amount of hits or whatever.
Those things goes to the Hall of Fame, and I shouldn't say those things. Those are precious pieces of history that goes on to where they should be on display.
At least the memorabilia that you've donated or contributed will be taken care of and, be on display for a very long time.
There are instances where people in the memorabilia market have acquired things which they've bought for money, and for that reason they're not donated to us. There's still a great many baseball fans out there who are not collectors, who know the value of these objects, but who feel that they belong here and not in the collecting market. This is a program from the 1939 centennial celebration when the museum was opened and the library established. This one has been taken to the preservation lab and given special attention to deacidify the paper and preserve it for posterity. Another early cartoon book on 19th century baseball that's extremely rare is called Baseball is Viewed by a Muffin. And this is another one of the treasures of the National Baseball Library.
I haven't felt good all day, okay? I wait in line 5 hours for free gifts and for the kids. They told me we could get free gifts for the kids. They turn around and then they said, you can't get it. You only get one gift per person.
Well, we spent 6 hours in line for the promo and getting in, and then when you try and go to the bathroom at the end of the show, they will not even let you go to the bathroom. They threaten you with the police, and the policeman said, do you want to go to the bathroom or you want to go to jail?
Man, I can run a show better than this, and this thing was screwed up.
You're not talking about baseball fans here. You're talking about somebody that saw the word free and went into a frenzy. People call us in the middle of the night, 3 o'clock in the morning. They call them the hotel and say, we want Mr. Petrozelli's room, and you get, 4-letter words, we're gonna kill you, we're gonna blow up your store. I mean, real neat stuff I tried to do them a favor and give them something free. I mean, I didn't take that much abuse in 19 years of police work. And I wouldn't have taken it. I wouldn't have taken it.
We've been giving out samples of the Comic Ball 2 cards this weekend at the convention, and they're going dynamite.
The upper deck cards went crazy, and the card went from a free card to anywhere from $100 to $250 for these promotional items. And I think that's kind of like years ago the rookie thing went through, and now we have this. Then went the air card craze, and now we're in the promo card craze.
We stretched from 150,000 square feet to begin with
to a second hall, which opened up to 300,000 square feet, to a third hall, which opened up. We're now at over 500,000 square feet at the Anaheim Convention Center, trying to accommodate the people in line.
I had a gentleman come up and tell me that he bought 100 tickets just to go through the promo line 100 times. He had no interest in any of the other stuff. He wanted to go through the promo line 100 times. He wanted a refund because he couldn't make it through the line 100 times.
It's just very difficult for me to understand how somebody would want to wait in line 4 or 5 hours to receive something like this.
They pick them up free and then they take them outside and sell them right away to try to make some quick bucks. That's not the purpose of it. The purpose of it is to receive a souvenir.
When you see a kid walk out of here because he got to meet Reggie Jackson or Hank Aaron or Oral Hershiser or one of those guys that was here, and the kid's got a grin from ear to ear, that's what makes me happy when I see people walk out of here. Or a kid walks out holding this Reggie Jackson Tasmanian Devil card that Upper Deck handed out going, I got a card, you know. That's the stuff. I mean, it brings tears to your eyes sometimes because you get so emotionally. You see this little kid, 9, 10 years old, jumping up and down because he met this guy or he got a card from him.
This year's National has just been tremendous, even though we've had a few problems with those scalpers. For me, it's been 10 of the best days of my life.
My business partner, Bernie Fratto, said to me, this is Woodstock. It was the best answer I could ever have. Somebody decided to throw a rock concert, and the next thing they knew, everybody came out to see it. Well, we threw a baseball card show. Get out of the way.
I think people need heroes because we're all struggling and we're all so insecure and we don't know if we're on the right track, and we'd like to be able to look up to someone, and we'd like to believe that there's some idea.
I have always tried to keep my price for going to the shows at around $8 or $9 now. It used to be $5 and things like that, but inflation has taken over in the baseball card business too.
Hey, look, if you just want to collect autographs, fine. I don't know why Joe DiMaggio's autograph or Mickey Mantle's autograph would ever be worth $40. I mean, these guys are still alive and they can sign a lot more autographs per hour than anybody, than they're worth.
It's the ghoulish element of autographing, that the rarity is what determines the value, and rarity is determined by life and death.
I think that it's like a lot of money for them to have, just to sign their name on a piece of paper or something, or ball or something like that.
They're in it for the same reason that you're there to sign it. You're in there. They're in there to think that 5, 10 years from now that whatever they paid for that autograph, they're going to give it to their children or save it for a while, and they can sell it again. That's basically what it's about.
I think autographs should be free. I think that people should stand outside the ballpark for 6 hours and wait like I did, because there's something really special in that.
Oh, that's the master! Come on, record breaker! Come on, record breaker! Come on, man.
It's difficult to meet heroes every day, and what these card shows do is give you a format to do that. So I think even if you look at the price of the autograph, what's also involved is the emotional fulfillment of being there with the player who made a lot of great things happen.
We know that there are forgeries going on. We know that forgeries take all kinds of forms and shapes and sizes, not just baseballs, not just old pennants or uniforms or old trading cards, but all kinds of things that you might not even stop to consider for a few moments.
I would say every month we're hearing a report of some sort of counterfeit going on. And now that technology is getting so advanced, the copy machines are coming out with color, and the printers are so advanced, they could produce something where it could look almost identical to the original.
Our marketing approach was very simple: create the best product possible and make it counterfeit-proof. We use a security hologram, I guess you want to call it, on the back of the cards, very similar to a bank credit card. There's a hologram on the back of each of our cards.
Cards are no problem whatsoever. They're very, very easy to detect because the companies make it very, very difficult to obtain the paper, the cardboard. Autographs, though, that's become a disease. And unless you know who you're buying from, I would suggest staying away from autographs right now. It's very simple to take a picture of Babe Ruth and forge his signature on there.
In an era where crime has reached all-time high proportions, this is not something that normally attracts the attention of law enforcement authorities.
It's everywhere, and we felt that there perhaps might be something done here in New York State, and so we've embarked upon a landmark effort. It's the first time that legislation of this kind has been introduced. Essentially what the bill does is it requires any dealer in New York State that sells sports autographs to issue a certificate of authenticity for any sale over $50. And there's an incentive there for these kinds of counterfeit autographs not being sold because the consumer would be able to get treble damages in court.
I've had a ton of people bring a uniform in and want me to sign it in a card show, claiming they got it from the uniform I wore in the World Series, and it's not even my size. I've had stuff put in my face. People just would say, well, I got this autograph bad, it's not my autograph. I mean, anybody doesn't get anything signed without anybody, in person by the players, they're taking a big chance.
If you bought a photograph of Jackie Robinson and it had a phony autograph on it and you paid $350 for it, you not only have something that's not worth $350, but you also have a shattered dream.
I think it's probably been the best investment. Cars have gone up the most vis-a-vis stocks, bonds, fine art paintings, you name it. Baseball cards have appreciated the best.
Yeah, you can make a lot of money if you get the right cards to sell. If people like them, cards. I can get into college with it, use the money for college.
I have a son that's 13 years old. When he goes to college, I can't afford to put him through it, so this is his way of getting through college.
I enjoyed collecting baseball cards as a boy. I have to say that I sold that collection of 52 tops, including the Mickey Mantle card, for a great deal of money in recent years. And I paid for college educations for my children.
It's pretty incredible what's going on right now. It's becoming an area of tremendous speculation. The collector is sort of becoming taking more of a back seat than the speculator, quote, the investor.
Investing in baseball cards is probably no different than investing in any other type of collectible. And I guess the best advice is you have to know what you're doing.
In real estate, it's location, location, location. In this business, it's condition, condition, condition.
You have to buy some plastic sheets to house the cards. That's very important. You don't want to get your cards damaged in any way.
If they're not going to take them out and look at them and play with them and worry about and if they have to worry about getting them soiled, then we're not talking about something that comes in a package of bubble gum. We're talking about a whole line of collecting that's totally independent from the love of baseball. And I think that it's kind of silly.
The older cards will always be a good investment for the simple reason that there's not too many of them around. A lot of people are misled, I believe, looking into the newer cards, that they're a good investment.
There are literally millions of almost every card manufactured, and somebody has to utilize great discretion before they get carried away with a conviction that a card will automatically go up in value.
We can't get into numbers today. Our numbers are strictly confidential, as are the numbers of all the card manufacturers.
We don't divulge the exact numbers of what we produce, but obviously we produce millions of cards.
I guess it's hard to say. Is the stuff worth it? I mean, it's worth it if somebody is willing to pay, you know, a couple $100,000 for one baseball card. Obviously, it's worth it. I mean, that's how the value of something is always determined. What's its intrinsic value as a, you know, a piece of card? You know, nothing. You can't buy a meal with it. You can't pay your rent with it. I mean, you can't now. But, you know, if you took it to Italy with you, you know, it would be worth zero.
If you're a baseball fan, if you love baseball, you want these things, you want to keep these things, you want to cherish these things. You don't want to think of them as investments.
The myths associated with these players grow every year. The need on the part of many investors to have something belonging to their former heroes increases every year. And I think the values are going to continue to go up.
I think that collecting is important because it's really part of people's interest in their past and a way of recapturing that past.
Collecting baseball cards and memorabilia is a way of our connecting with people who have a perceived power or interest. And I think in collecting their cards, this is our way of connecting with them, of becoming part of them, of having something of their, of sharing their powers vicariously.
I think adults who enjoy collecting see it almost as a kind of a form of hunting in a way.
I think it's a frenzy based on acquisitiveness and greed and the hope of getting something for nothing.
I think the total goods and services of sports are like over $60 billion as measured by the Wharton economic model.
I don't know, it's just magic.
Baseball is the sport that brings us back to our roots and to our childhood, and that's what memorabilia does. It brings you back to your own nostalgia, makes you aware of your own nostalgia. It's the only way you can relive a feeling is by an object.
I think it's one of those things that, you know, when you were a kid, you always said, hey, I'm going to be a big league baseball player. Consequently, not many make it, so they always want something for their sons, for their grandsons, and that's really how the game perpetuates itself. And baseball, more than any other sport, really has a history.
It's almost an anthropological truth that the human race plays stick and ball games, and whatever society you go into, whatever society we look at, on any continent you can name, you will find stick and ball games of some description being played.
Baseball was played prior to events such as the Civil War, prior to events such as Custer's Last Stand. And there is this incredible tradition and legacy and history associated with the game that no other professional team sport can match.
There is evidence of stick and ball games being played at Plymouth Plantation in the 1600s. Baseball was played at Valley Forge by George Washington's soldiers.
Kids have been brought up as baseball being the national sport.
Anybody and everybody can play it. You know, you can have a Partek who can play Major League career, who stands 5'2" and weighs 80 pounds or 100 pounds. You know, he couldn't play football, he couldn't play basketball. You know, the only sport he could play was baseball.
It has a history of statistics that are easily comparable. Unlike any other sport, baseball players are compared continuously to their peers and to their past peers.
I've had patients in my clinical practice who are into numbers and statistics in a way that I think borders on the, shall we say, pathological or the disturbed end of it.
They promote the game, and like it's never been promoted before. And you know, you've got guys that are in the marketing business, and that's what it is, marketing the game. And they can make it look interesting.
There are more books published about baseball, more newspaper lineage directed toward baseball, and generally more media consciousness directed at baseball than at other sports.
I think there were over 2,500 games on TV last year.
That kind of exposure leads to awareness levels that pervade just about every segment of our society.
I think basically baseball is part of collecting America.
Bartlett Giamatti wrote a piece about baseball. What entranced him was you start at home, and the whole point of the game is you leave home and you have to return. And when you return home, you score. The team that returns home the most, of course, wins the game. And when you say it like that, it has like a fairy tale quality to it.
I grew up in the Philadelphia area, and my favorite ball players were the Philadelphia Phillies. If you had a Robin Roberts card and I had a Mickey Mantle card, I'd have traded you even up and thought I got the best part of the deal, and today that would be heresy. I think that's a little dangerous.
I think it is a little disconcerting when young baseball fans are more interested in the value of a player's baseball card than they are in his batting average. In some ways, that's a tragedy.
I don't think it does any harm for an 8-year-old kid to learn how to trade, to learn the basics of business and entrepreneurship. And if he does this through the vehicle of baseball cards, it's a plus. Who cares? That's America. It's okay to make a profit.
That's frightening, actually. If that's what's happening. To think that we're raising a nation of avaricious businessmen.
Kids will learn the hard way that the real money to be made in any kind of collecting business are by the professional collectors.
I just feel it keeps the kids from going out and doing anything destructive as getting involved in drugs or getting involved with alcohol, but I just feel that it's more constructive and it's going to give them a chance to meet maybe their idol.
What's happening is that you see, the thing I guess you can be proud of, the fact that you see the dads and the moms and everybody else out, and that's what makes it so good. Anytime you can get the family out, it's worth the price of doing anything.
I'm with my dad, and we're selling baseball cards at a table.
My parents buy them for me.
I'm with my father and my brother.
I bought these for $1, but I'm gonna give them to my dad.
I mean, if you think about it, if you're a dad, what do you talk about with your kids?
In my heart of hearts, I sometimes miss the innocence of the hobby when it was before it became an investment.
It's not just the hobby that's lost that innocence. The hobby is merely a mirror of the game as it is today. It's no longer and will never be like it once was. And where Willie Mays came out and said, when he came up, hey, I'd play for free, or I'd pay them to play. It's not like that, unfortunately. It'll never be like that again.
I'm reminded of a 17th century, I believe, tulip market in Holland, or in the Netherlands, where people began to speculate on a product, in this case tulips, in a way that was disproportionate to the inherent value of the product. Ultimately, that market collapsed, and a means of alternative currency in the Netherlands also collapsed along with it, throwing the country into economic chaos.
Well, I think it's, you know, I guess if you just sit back and think of baseball cards as pieces of cardboard, it is mind-boggling that there's so much value attached to them.
I value money with the best of people, and I certainly respect money, but money is a cheap commodity.
I think it's always going to be a wise investment and a strong investment.
I think for most, they would be better off treating their hobby as a hobby and not getting too carried away with it financially.
It's the largest hobby in the United States, and I think that it will continue to grow because it's based upon the game of baseball, and it hits all ages. It's not like a hula hoop or a pet rock or a Lionel train. People of all ages can collect baseball cards.
I think it's something that's always going to be popular. It's based on reality.
I mean, baseball is, it's goes to the core of our United States of America.
It's something that is seen by the American people as being very much American.
Probably sound too moralistic about this, and I don't want to judge everybody what they do with their memorabilia. It's just that when you turn it into a huge business, when you turn it into a money-making venture, you've lost sight of what it's all about.
That's kind of what our whole society has been built on, capitalism, you know, doing what you have to do. And the hobby has changed some, I think, from it is becoming more of a business, but that's just the way things change. You know, the game of baseball changed, this hobby business changes, and everything changes, so nothing stays the same.